Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Conservative Corner. I am your substitute host, Bad Billy out of Twin Falls, Idaho, joined, of course, by the one and only Alexandra Levine, host of Alexandra 360. Thank you very much for helping me fill in tonight.
Of course, anytime.
Yes. So, those of you who are wondering where Seth is, he is out due to a family emergency. Please keep him and his family in your prayers. And we will do our best to cover and not embarrass him or embarrass ourselves for that matter. But I am here on pretty much very, very last minute notice, but I'm happy to step up and fill in. And as I do for my shows, you can see the bottom ticker there. You can see if you want to join in the show with your questions and comments, you can call the number at the ticker there, and you can join us. And yeah, so anyway, let's just get right into it. There's all kinds of things to discuss. One of the biggest topics we have right now is we have basically we have some trouble going on in Syria. I mean, I'm only finding out bits and pieces as we go along, but Alexandra, you're a little bit more keen on the subject, so I'll let you take it.
Yeah, so the Syrian regime under Bashar al-Assad completely fell yesterday and in the last few days. And a lot of that has to do with what's going on with Israel and Hamas and Israel and Hezbollah. As we know, Israel has destroyed the main leaders of Hamas and the main leaders of Hezbollah. So now the ISIS and Al-Qaeda have come after Bashar al-Assad and his regime, and those are the people that have taken over the regime. So now we have ISIS and Al-Qaeda that has taken over Syria in full capacity. Bashar al-Assad had to do a quick escape from Syria. He actually escaped to Russia. Today, people thought that his plane crashed because it went off radar. There's a reason why Bashar al-Assad and his family meticulously did that so that the Ukrainians and his enemies didn't know where he was. So Vladimir Putin actually said to Bashar al-Assad and his family, come here to Russia and seek asylum. So he flew to Moscow. So Bashar al-Assad flew to Moscow with his family. He's seeking asylum in Moscow, Russia right now. He's under Vladimir Putin's protection. And now ISIS and Al-Qaeda are controlling the country of Syria. As we know, between Israel and Syria, we have something called the Golan Heights. That is a war that Israel won, and they have control of the Golan Heights. We actually have Trump Heights under Bibi Netanyahu in honor of President Trump. But right now, Israeli troops are going into Syria right now, to start a little bit of, I don't want to say a war, but they have to protect their homeland as well. We want to make sure that there is no altercations between the Golan Heights and Syria. So Israeli troops are going into Syria right now, making sure everything is kept in check. I will tell you that ISIS has never actually attacked Israel because they know if they do, they will be wiped out within 24 to 48 hours. So right now, Israeli troops are going into Syria. ISIS and Al-Qaeda are controlling Syria. But a lot of this has to do with the start of Obama. Obama opened up the Arab Spring. Obama is the cause of the rise of ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and the Taliban. And with Biden in there and Kamala Harris there, this is a continuation of that. So again, we want these wars to end. Israel is taking matters into their own hands like they always do. President Trump says he wants the war to end. Israel is winning the war, but he wants the war to end. He doesn't want American dollars going into this war. But of course, Joe Biden comes out and says, we will do everything we can to give money to the new regime and help them out in any way. So again, contrast of the presidents. That's why Biden and Kamala are leaving. President Trump's coming in to end these wars. And it's interesting the timing of this. President Trump is supposed to take office January 20th, 2025. And look at all this chaos that is happening now, a month before he takes that Oval Office. And they're doing this on purpose. They want to bring in the National Guard. I think they want to try to delay President Trump from being inaugurated. That's what some reports are coming out. I mean, this is really serious why we're having all these wars and all these issues. So that's what's going on right now in Syria. Like I said, breaking news, the Israeli troops are going into Syria right now because they want to make sure that there's no issue between the Golan Heights and Syria.
Well, this was a concern that I had back in 2016 going into 2017 was could Obama call martial law and stop Trump from taking office and maintain his position as commander in chief, and obviously that didn't happen. And of course, people were telling me to put on my tinfoil hat, and I'm nothing more than crazy conspiracy theory. I'm just spreading hyperbole. What? No, it is a legitimate concern. And it's not like I said that was going to happen. I said it was a concern that it might happen, and it's even a greater concern now than it was then. Will Trump be able to take office is a question I've got in my mind.
And I worry about his safety every single day. Every time he steps out of Mar-a-Lago, I worry about his safety. I have actually put out to his transition team to make sure on January 20th that there is a glass partition when he gets sworn in. You do not want to take any chances, especially on the swearing in day. We just want to make sure that he gets up there, he gets sworn in, and he is our president, and that he gets the job done for us, like we the people voted for him to do. And like I said, he believes in we the people. He loves we the people. So we are just really hoping and praying that President Trump gets to that inauguration on January 20th. But look at all of these things that are trying to throw him off from getting inaugurated.
Well, there's other concerns that I have. And that would also be, they've already tried shooting him, and I think that plan is out the door. They got to be checking his food for cyanide at every meal. Things like that.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Roger Stone, who's actually a very strong advisor to President Trump, he actually worked under Richard Nixon. Roger Stone actually confirmed that Richard Nixon was almost poisoned, and Roger Stone also told President Trump, be very careful what you eat at the White House. This is when he was president in the White House. Be very careful what you eat. Make sure you go down and talk to the chefs, see how they're making the food. And if you notice, there was some videos of him and Melania going down there and talking to the kitchen staff and seeing how they were cooking the food. It's very, 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 it's just, you have to really be careful nowadays, because anything unfortunately can happen to this man, and coincidences is just, there are no coincidences.
Yes. And by the way, for those of you who have not followed any of my podcasts in the past, of course, I really watch it on Patriot Confederation. However, I know Seth likes to go uncensored, so I guess that means that I'm off the leash too. So if some language flies, it's very possibly going to happen. I'll try to keep the majority of it under control, but certain subjects kind of get me fired up. So with the upcoming inauguration, I mean, we'll be getting in. My buddy Chris Barrett will be who was just in Washington D.C. We'll be getting into why he was there. But he took some interesting video while he was out there. I can't remember what point he was at, but he was looking at the setup for the inauguration. And now that's something we can smile at, Alexandra, because they're setting up like bleachers or stands or whatever, and they're setting it up good. It looks great.
Oh yeah, and there's going to be tight security there, massively tight security. Myself, I will be attending the inauguration, and I know people from our network will be as well. I'll be attending some of the inaugural balls as well. So it's going to be very, very tight security down there in DC, especially. We don't know if there's going to be protesters or not. I wouldn't write them off. I'm sure there will be massive protests. There was massive protests when I was there in 2017, so I wouldn't write that off. But I think people are tired of it. People are tired of the protests. People are tired of the Gaza encampments. People are tired of all of this stuff. They just want to have a peaceful transition of power. Let President Trump take over. Let him do what we, the people, voted him to do. And he's got 2 years now, 2 strong years with the Republican House of Representatives and Republican Senate to get stuff done. And we need those 2 years, and we don't need anybody getting in his way for those first 2 years. They're very critical.
So we got the truthful troll, and he's actually got a legitimate question that I think we should fire your way. Alexandra says, what is the reason Israel is going into Syria?
Well, like I said before, they have to make sure that their territory, that the Golan Heights doesn't get, taken down. I mean, that was their territory that they won years ago with the wars. They want to make sure that ISIS and Al Qaeda are in check. Like I said before, ISIS has not attacked Israel at all, but we still want to make sure ISIS and Al Qaeda are terrorist organizations. So we want to make sure that, they don't start another October 7th in the Golan Heights. And I have a lot of friends that are Golani officers right now. They called me up. They said, here we go again. Like, it's like one thing after another. And they all, they're so happy that Trump is going back into the White House. They said when Trump goes back, hopefully all this crap will stop. But it's like one thing after another. It's like Hezbollah was after them. Hamas, of course, was a part of October 7th. You had UNRWA, you had Qatar, you had Iran, and now we're having ISIS and Al Qaeda. So we don't have the luxury right now of having, like, for example, Vladimir Putin kept Bashar al-Assad in check. We don't know who's going to keep ISIS and Al Qaeda in check. So that's why the Israelis are going in right now they're going into Syria right now to make sure that everything is what they say kosher, beseder, good, so that there isn't another October 7th or there isn't a brutal attack on Israeli soil.
And in the past, when I've talked to a lot of South Africans too, they've actually in South Africa they have a bit of an immigration problem with Nigerians, and it gets really bad between the Nigerians that migrate all the way down to South Africa, but and if you don't have the ungodly farm murders that happen, you have a lot of xenophobia that happens in South Africa. And this doesn't matter what color your skin is, mind you, even though they try to make so many things race related. I mean, there is so much black on black crime in South Africa too. And we're talking a good majority of it is native black South Africans trying to take out those from other parts of Africa, but and a lot of them Nigerians, and so that kind of brought in threats from Boko Haram, which is another Islamic terrorist organization, and from last I heard, they have gotten stronger over the years too. I mean, you don't hear much about them, but they're there.
And again, this is the doing of Barack Hussein Obama. I mean, he got rid of Gaddafi. He got rid of Hosni Mubarak. He got rid of all of these leaders that had been in power of these countries for 40 years, and they didn't do anything to America. They didn't do anything to Israel. But then Obama comes in and gets rid of them, annihilates them, and brings in the Muslim Brotherhood. He does the rise of the Taliban, the rise of ISIS, or he called it ISIL, and then the rise of Al Qaeda and Islamic Jihad. This is all a continuation of the Barack Hussein Obama era. And that's why that era needs to come to an end. And it did come to an end on November 5th, and it will definitely come to an end January 20th of 2025.
I may sound kind of prejudiced, but Obama's name alone kind of gave me chills and wondering if he should really be running for office, because we just dealt at the time it wasn't too long after that, we just dealt with 9/11, and then we have somebody whose name rhymes with Osama. So
remember, he went by Barry Soetoro for years, so he didn't sound so Arabic. That was his fake name.
Yeah, no, I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all. It's the first time I heard anything about that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, he's
but
actually from the Soetoro family, so he called himself Barry Soetoro. But Barack Hussein Obama is the name that he got when he was living in Indonesia for many, many years.
Hussein,
Hmm.
wow, Hussein.
I know.
If that doesn't isn't enough to scare you, you know, and like,
I was going to say, when he was president, they dropped the Hussein and they just called him Barack, or they just called him Obama, because they knew if they said Barack Hussein Obama, like you said, it would like give people chills. But Michelle, Michael Obama, she always called him Barack or Obama.
Big Mike.
Big Mike. Hey, Obama called his own wife Big Mike. I'm just stating what Barack Obama did. He called his wife Mike. So
You know
called her
what? What is the coincidence?
right at the State of the Union address. He called her Michelle Obama.
What is the coincidence too that when Joan Rivers came out and said that Barack Obama was gay,
Mm-hmm.
and said that
Michael
Michelle
was, yeah. Mm-hmm.
was a transsexual, she died so shortly after saying
Oh
that.
yeah. Oh yeah. And her daughter Melissa actually sued the doctor for killing her mother, but there was a lot more to it. And a lot of people believe that Joan Rivers died because she said that stuff about Obama and Michelle, and they think that Joan Rivers was onto something, that she revealed the truth in that whatchamacallit, in that clip.
My goodness. What a mess. What
What
a friggin' mess.
Oh, I just wanted to say breaking news. Alina Habba, who is one of the strong attorneys that's very close with the president, she's the spokeswoman attorney for the president. She was just tapped to be the counselor to the president. So that's a very big honor. And Alina Habba is a very good friend of mine. She's very good friends with my JEXA spokesperson, Siggy Flicker. So congratulations, Alina Habba, on that appointment. That is a very strong appointment and well-deserved.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm going to move on to the next subject here. And for anybody who's followed me, especially on Patriot Confederation, I have two friends who are, I think they're both formally now of Gays Against Groomers. One of them being Chris Barrett out of Missouri. He's the former spokesperson for Gays Against Groomers, and then there's Kevin Hammer out of New York, who decided to drop out, but still dedicated to exposing pedophilia and dedicated to protecting children, which we can appreciate regardless of their sexual preference. As we know, the state of Tennessee is clinging tough to their decision to not allow gender mutilation surgery on minors. Because let's face it, we got states that think that, get this, there is somebody that came out and said that someone can decide what sex they want to be while they're in utero. What do you say to that? What the hell do you say to that?
That is insane, and that is complete misinformation. And if that's what they're teaching in schools, I would tell the students, or I'd tell the parents to pull their students out of the school. I mean, I was so happy that Tim Walz did not win, because, as you know, in his state, he was governor of Minnesota. He wrote an executive order stating that a 3-year-old can say, I'm a girl, I want to be a boy, I can change my gender without parental consent. I mean, that is what they're teaching in schools today. They're teaching that is part of the curriculum in some of these liberal states and liberal counties and sanctuary states. It's disgusting. That is not what kids at 3 to 4 to 5 years old should be learning. We need to go back to reading, writing, and arithmetic. The fact that this is even a subject, the fact that this is even out there, that it's part of a curriculum, is disgusting. And that's why so many parents have taken their kids out of school, and a lot of parents are homeschooling their kids because they don't like what is being taught in the public schools. It's disgusting.
So I'm going to tell you something, and I'm not trying to make you angry, but what I'm about to tell you should make you or any other normal human being listening to us should make you angry. So you take a scenario. Dad gets out of the shower and he goes into his bedroom and he starts changing clothes, and kid walks in on him while he's still naked and goes, "Daddy, what's that?" You know, the proper response would be, "Get out of here and let me get dressed."
Mm-hmm.
Somebody told me, and I shit you not, they told me when the child asked that question that they are giving consent.
What?
Somebody told me that a long friggin' time ago.
Wow.
And I'm like, dude, you get away from me before I fucking kill you.
Oh my gosh.
I was so irate when I heard he told me that. It's like, no, that is, you know what? That's just a kid being a kid. That is not a kid giving consent for sexual activity that they don't even know about.
No, he's just asking, Dad, what is that? Oh my God. That is, oh my God. That's so disgusting. Oh my God. But the parent, on the other hand, should say, get the heck out of here. Now, there are stories and instances, and this is disgusting, I don't want to say, that the parents are like, oh, you've never seen this before? Come on over. Like, I don't want to get into what they do after that. That they do
no,
with their
you
young
wanna,
boys. But it's true. I mean, I hear incestuous crap like this. I mean, remember, Hunter Biden, pedophile, did incestuous stuff with his 14-year-old niece. He showed her how to give fellatio to him. I mean, that's a true fact. It's disgusting.
Hunter should have been castrated a long time ago with a dull butter knife.
Exactly. But I mean, this incestuous stuff that goes on in homes, it's disgusting. I mean, the minds of these parents, you know, how they're raising their children, and it's so gross. And then I read stories of like sisters having sex with their brothers, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like what is going on? Like, ew. But again, that has to do with the curriculum. These schools that have gender reaffirming, or they teach books like Genderqueer and Lawn Boy and others that have incestuous clips in their books, or it talks about, you know, the son the mother raping the son. I mean, just disgusting stuff that's being taught in schools. That's why it's really important that the parents are involved in what their child is being taught.
Oh,
if
absolutely.
they see their child being taught this disgusting stuff, they need to stand up and they need to rise up against it, just like what happened in Loudoun County, Virginia, with all of that gender reaffirming in the CRT curriculum that was going on. That the parents of Loudoun County saw this because of COVID, and they took a stance. Parents have to take a stance. That's why it's also important who you have as your school board. I was very fortunate in the state of Maryland, where Seth is a resident of. In Frederick County, we helped get 2 conservatives on the school board. And then in Washington County, it's all conservative Republicans now on the school board. So that's also very important, who you have on your school board. You want as many conservatives on the school board as possible, so we can stop teaching this crap.
Well, getting back to Chris Barrett, as I was talking about him, he was actually at the Supreme Court this past week. I can't remember what day it was. Of course, you hear protesters in the background trying to overpower his speech. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and it's a little bit over 5 minutes, but he made his speech at the Supreme Court. Let's go ahead and hear what he said.
All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Barrett, and I am here with the LGBT Courage Coalition. Before I get to anything else, let me say, as a Missourian, I want to give my full support to our neighbors in Tennessee. Like Tennessee and many other states, Missouri has banned the practice of so-called gender-affirming care for minors. To the people of Tennessee, my prayers are with you and your brave leaders here at the Supreme Court today, and I think it's appropriate I put this hat on. This topic means a lot to me, and let me tell you why. When I was a young boy, I was a bit different than other boys. I loved to play dress up and pretend I was a beautiful dancer. My cousin and I would play with Barbie dolls together. I thought makeup was so much fun. I'd give makeovers to cousins, and of course, I wouldn't mind looking a little glamorous at times too. Thankfully, my parents accepted their boys' behavior and let me develop into a normal and healthy adult gay man. Today, had I had different parents, I may have been convinced I was actually trans. You see, what I'm speaking about is that most kids who experience gender dysphoria are kids like I once was. They may not act like the stereotypical boy or girl. In fact, most kids who are diagnosed with gender dysphoria simply turn out to be same-sex attracted adults if you simply leave these kids alone. But pediatric gender care is spreading to many other groups, and even more children are suffering. In some places around the world, we have seen a 4,000% increase in the number of adolescent girls claiming to be trans. Autistic children are also disproportionately susceptible to this ideology driving these increases. For the past few years, I've been traveling around Missouri, speaking out against overtly sexual books in school libraries that often attempt to introduce children to gender ideology. While there are definitely other ways the indoctrination can begin, making sure children aren't exposed to these topics in school would be an easy way to help stop this problem before it starts. So, to the parents of the United States, I say this to you. Please get involved in your children's school life. Attend school board meetings and work to get the medicalization of children stopped in your states. I'd also like you to support federal bans on these unnecessary medical interventions. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene is looking to pass her Protect Children's Innocence Act, which would ban these practices in all 50 states. There is now movement in the Senate to pass similar legislation in the next session. It's time we support these leaders and get this crucial work done. I'd like to specifically speak to my community, the lesbian, gay, and bisexual community. Far too long, many of us have been silent on this issue facing children, and it's time for this to change. With so many gay and lesbian youth getting caught up in the gender craze, what is happening here is conversion therapy 2.0. Why settle for a gay son when you can have a straight daughter? Our community largely rejected original forms of conversion therapy, and we should reject this attempt driven by radicals and a greedy medical industry. Gay people are fine the way we are. There is no need to change us. In fact, all children are perfect just as God created them. In reality, this is a new gay rights movement. Before we were looking for equality. Now we must stand up for freedom. We must emancipate ourselves from the shackles of gender theory, which tells children they're born in the wrong body, and queer theory, which tells kids that they must reject the very foundations of our society. When we were fighting for our rights as gay people, most of us just wanted to be good American citizens. A part of being a good citizen is to stand up for the children of this country, and many of us are parents too. So let's show America that we will be good citizens and that we will be a reliable line of defense for kids. Lastly, I'd like to provide some words of encouragement to everyone in America. The movement to protect kids from radical gender ideology is growing. More and more people are opening their eyes to one of the greatest human rights atrocities in our time. So let's pray for the Supreme Court justices. Let's hope they will decide to uphold Tennessee's ban on gender care for minors. But keep this in mind. no matter what happens here at the court, we will find a way to prevail. We will find a way to make sure children are allowed to keep their healthy body parts and avoid chemical castration. Our nations can do better for our children. Each one of us must stand together and say, enough is enough. Leave the kids alone. May God bless and protect the kids of the United States. Thank you.
Oh, wasn't God? You hear that in the background? They were trying so hard to overpower him. So
That was a great speech.
that was
Very powerful.
yes. You know, I actually have my religious beliefs, you know, that are going to stay the way they are. That I'm never going to be fully for same-sex marriages and all that, you know. However, I've never had a prejudice. That's one thing too, is that a lot of people, this woke ideology is pushing this. If you don't agree with it 100%, you're some kind of phobic, you're prejudiced in some way, you know. And that's not the case at all.
Exactly.
You know, I think basically if a kid comes to me at like 12 years old and tells me they think they're gay or they think they're a girl or something, I said, my first answer is going to be, why don't you wait till you're a bit older before trying to make decisions like that, and never let somebody else try to push you to try to make that decision.
Correct.
I mean, if a little boy wants to play with Barbie dolls, really, so be it. I really don't care, you know, and I don't think that means a whole lot. I mean, I've got an autistic son who does like to play with a doll. However, you know, let me ask you this: when you see little girls with dolls, and I'm not talking Barbie dolls. Well, you know why they're doing that, right?
Well, it depends on what type of doll.
Well, they're pretending to be parents.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Yeah. So, and that's the same case with my son, which is why he has a doll. He saw his older brother. He just had his first baby a little over a year ago. He saw, you know, his older brother's now a dad, so he wants to pretend that he's a dad, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all.
But it does concern me. I won't let him take the doll out in public.
No.
And for the main concern of somebody looking at him and thinking, well, that little boy is carrying around a doll and he must want to be a girl, so I'm going to help him with that process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I do agree with you that, you know, when kids play with dolls in their home, that's what they do in their home. That's their own quiet place. I knew, you know, growing up in kindergarten and first grade, a lot of my friends, they would pretend they were the parent and they would treat their stuffed animals like they were children, and they would play like a bingo game with them, you know?
Yes.
But obviously, like the stuffed animals can talk back, but they acted like they were the leader, like, you know, N45, you know, put the N45. And like, it was kind of, you know, I was a 5-year-old watching my friends do this with their stuffed animals. Like, it was cute, you know, it was really cute. But, you know, nowadays, things are very different. Things are very, very, very different. But going back to the transgenderism, it's less than 1% of the country that's trans. Yes. It's the minority trying to be the majority. And yeah, and the thing is, again, you have to look at the people that are backing this. You got people like George Soros and Alex Soros. They're pushing this crap.
Oh.
It's a lot of, I don't even like to say the word progressive because they use it wrong, but it's a lot of these progressive groups that are pushing this, and the Code Pinks of the world, they're all pushing this. And unfortunately, they do have a lot of money. And because they have a lot of money, they feel they can control the power of the person, the narrative. But if it's not for people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, your friend Chris, who stands up there and defends what's right, defends the law, defends the Constitution, the religious beliefs, whatever, then all these things would just continue to pass and our voices would be shut down. And we need more Chris's and Marjorie Taylor Greenes out there, preaching against this. And Nancy Mace's of the world, she said in the Capitol, I don't want a man in my bathroom, because she was sexually assaulted when she was younger, and it like brings it all back up. And she's like, I'm not having this. Like, this is like the halls of Congress. Like, have some decorum. Like, there's laws splattered all over the halls of Congress. I've been to the halls of Congress. There's laws splattered all over the place. You got Moses there. You got laws splattered all over the place. And Abraham's there. You have laws. The Judeo-Christian value rules are splattered all over the halls of Congress. So that's why people like Nancy Mace are like, I'm not having this. Like, we need to have some decorum in the halls of Congress.
Now, God bless Nancy Mace and the stance she's taken, especially against that one who's proudly taking a selfie in the women's bathroom.
Oh.
I'm sorry to be blunt, but does that person still have a penis? I mean, I don't really want to see it. No, but
where's the White House doctor to find out, or the congressional doctor to find out?
I'm sorry if you have. I don't care if you grow your hair out, put on a wig, put on makeup, whatever. If you got a penis, you don't belong in the women's bathroom. Period.
Exactly. I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. I mean, my sister has young kids as well, between the ages of 11 and 5. She's got 2 girls and a boy. My sister doesn't want to go to a girl's bathroom and worry that there's a boy coming in there, or a guy dressed up as a girl going into the girl's bathroom with her 2 daughters. And I have friends that their children are going to college soon, and a lot of my friends, their children are going out of state. They don't want to have to worry that there's a teacher in there that is a guy dressed up as a girl going into the girl's bathroom with their daughter that's in college. It's stuff like that. And it's sad that we have to think about that. It's sad that we have to worry about that. It's disgusting.
Yes. And then, of course, comes the subject of men and women's sports.
Yeah.
I mean, my local Boise State University, they forfeit that volleyball game for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Why should they have to be forced to play against biological men?
Exactly. But a lot of that has to do with the leadership. You have a very powerful Republican governor in Idaho. You have a very powerful attorney general, lieutenant governor. It has to do with the leadership.
Actually, I'm going to have to correct you there. Brad Little is not a very powerful Republican. He's a rhino piece of shit who pretty, he's done some good things, but he's proven that he doesn't belong in the Capitol, as far as I'm concerned, especially.
I didn't know that. But my point is, like, well, here, I'll make another example, like Kristi Noem. There you go. So Kristi Noem, she's more conservative, and she's the governor of South Dakota. Now, if God willing, she gets confirmed by the Senate, she'll be the new DHS secretary. But she, as was really big about passing the bill, about men and women's sports, and that was her claim to fame there. And then, of course.
Can you hear me?
So, yeah, sorry. Somebody called while I was broadcasting. Okay. But anyway, yeah. So it's when you have leadership, or certain leadership, whether it's your governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, whatever, or down the I can't even think now, not down ballot, but down the row there on the state and local level, it does make a difference. It does make a difference. And again, the reason, we had the issues in Minnesota is because we had a Minnesota governor who wrote that horrible executive order, Tim Walz, that 3-year-olds can decide they want to change their gender without parental consent. So it does start at that leadership role. It does start at the government.
If Tim Walz had a brain that actually worked, my goodness. By the way,
crazy.
Going back to the election too, just a little bit too, is I'm actually quite impressed with the state of Minnesota. Whereas, the writing's kind of on the wall for certain states, Oregon, Washington, California, Colorado, New Mexico, and Minnesota being one of them too. But you realize that Trump really took a huge commanding lead in Minnesota before they started counting the votes in the Tri-Cities. And the end count shows that it was actually pretty close in Minnesota.
Well, I think especially in 2020, they predicted that President Trump was actually going to win that state. I think, in my opinion, he did, because there was a big wave over there, and you had Pete Stauber over there, and you had a lot of strong conservative congressmen in Minnesota. And even Newt Gingrich said the margin is like so razor thin. I think Trump was only maybe 2 or 3 percentage points behind in Minnesota against Biden. And there was a reason why President Trump did some rallies in Minnesota as well, because he saw that the margin was so thin. I think, in my opinion, that President Trump did win the state of Minnesota in 2020, and definitely in 2016 as well.
Well, from what I understand, Trump was winning California before they activated Hammer and Scorecard, which that's another story for another time.
I believe that President Trump won California in 2020. I will always believe that. I believe he won the state of Hawaii in 2020 as well. I really do.
Yeah, well, and I looked into history too, and no Republican has won Minnesota since Nixon, and then Reagan was the last Republican to win Hawaii.
Right.
So those are states that have not been have not turned red for quite some time, and then of course Wisconsin back in 2016 for the first time in a long time for it as well.
Yeah, there was a lot of fraud in Wisconsin. My brother-in-law is an election law attorney, and he went up to Wisconsin on election day and Michigan. He went to both states, and he saw the fraud that happened in both of those states on election day. The guy, Mike Rogers, actually was winning the Senate seat in Wisconsin, and at 3:00 in the morning, there was a massive amount of mail-in ballots, like we saw in 2020, which really hurt Mike Rogers' chances. Same thing with the guy in Michigan as well, Mr. I think Eric Hodey. I can't pronounce his last name, but both of those men were winning. And then at 3:00 in the morning, there was just massive amounts of mail-in ballots, which hurt both of their chances. But I can tell you that Wisconsin, Michigan has fixed a lot of their election laws since 2020. Arizona, oh my God, they've never. I mean, they've tried, but Arizona and Nevada need a lot more work.
Yeah. There's been improvements, but there's definitely work that needs to be done. But then again, we're talking solid red states like here in Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
Over in Pocatello, I forgot. I interviewed a gentleman by the name of Jake Stevens. I forgot what office he was running for in 2022, but he's a solid, strong leader. And the guy he's up against is, obviously he worships Bernie Sanders and really pushes for Planned Parenthood here in Idaho. Well, wow. And this is in the Pocatello area. And Jake had such a strong lead before midnight, and then they stopped counting. I mean, he had a commanding lead. And then they resumed counting somewhere between 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and his opponent, Nate Roberts, wins miraculously. Well, Jake made the mistake of conceding before I could actually, because Mary Fanning would have been able to help him and maybe get that thing turned around, but he conceded before. It's like, oh no, you shouldn't have done that.
No, you have to fight for every vote. And if you see the cheating, that's why you have an election law attorney right beside you to say something. And I know that Chairman Michael Whatley, who the president just re-endorsed and said, I want him to be the chairman of the RNC again. He's going to be arresting a lot of people that were either complicit in allowing illegals to vote, or what they did is they found a lot of illegals that did vote, and they're going to prosecute them to the fullest degree of the law and put them in jail. You
realize too that back in 2020, Biden almost took Texas before they caught a lot of the cheating. And
that was freaky, because the state of Texas, of all states, is extremely red, and they actually don't have Dominion, and they don't do Smartmatic. They're one of the only states that doesn't have the machines, and that just baffled me. That just completely baffled me how close it was. And even with Senator Ted Cruz's reelection seat. It was very, very close. Very, very close. I mean, the DNC machine pumped a lot of money into his Democrat opponent, and he almost lost. And if it wasn't for Trump carrying him over, I don't know if Ted Cruz would have won re-election. I mean, that was pretty scary.
Well, I hope that taught Ted Cruz a bit of a lesson too, because remember right around in 2016, he was really outspoken against Trump and said some not so nice things, and you know, Trump showing the consummate human being that he is and still helped him out. So,
well, a lot of people are very skeptical that my senator from Florida, Marco Rubio, was appointed the Secretary of State, because they're like, you know, is he really America first? Does he really support Trump? They're not buddy. You know, there was other people that were better, that were more America first. You know, so people are like, but I know my senator very well. And when it comes to security, national security, the State Department, especially when it comes to Israel and our allies, he's very strong on that. And you need a Secretary of State that gets along and gets along with all of our allies, especially our biggest ally, Israel. So I think that's one of the biggest reasons why President Trump picked Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio is very smart when it comes to State Department issues and national security.
Yeah, well, I've talked to a couple of people who actually run for office in the state of Florida. I forgot where, but I know they were opponents against each other too in the primary.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them did not have nice things to say about Marco Rubio at all. I don't know if the names Reba Cheryl or Mike Velarde ring a bell to you, but
Mike Velarde, yeah, he rings a bell. Not the first one. Mike Velarde does.
Well, Reba Cheryl is actually I can't remember what the proper medical terminology is, but she's confined to a wheelchair. Unfortunately, it's still she is a bright woman who's gone through some hard times. But I haven't spoken with Mike for a while. I'm gonna have to reach out to him. So
yeah, like I said, there's you know this and this with Marco Rubio. Like I said, I know there was other people, you know, that my colleagues and I were like, why didn't President Trump pick, you know, this person? Why didn't he pick that person? That person's more America first. But like I said, President Trump has his reasons for picking certain people. You know, he picked Kelly Loeffler to work a certain department, picked David Perdue to work a certain department, and a lot of people are skeptical about that too. But like I said, there's a reason for there's a reason for everything. But we look at the top people that Trump has picked, and the pushback against these people, such as like Matt Gaetz, there was a lot of pushback. Pete Hegseth is going through hell right now. People are freaking out about Tulsi Gabbard. They're freaking out about Kash Patel. They're freaking out about RFK Jr. because these guys are they're going to be in very high-powered cabinet positions, and they're going to be literally draining the swamp and draining a lot of stuff. So people are freaking out, and this is a testament, and it's a test. Because President Trump is very smart. He's testing these people. He's testing the Senate rhinos, because if the American people are shown that these Senate rhinos are not going to confirm his appointments, it shows the division of the Republican Party. It shows that the rhinos are actually worse than moderate Democrats. It shows that rhinos are a detriment to our country. It shows that the Senate rhinos really don't care about we the people, that they just care about themselves and the power of the purse. And I said this on my podcast and other podcasts, that the special interests and the lobbyists are the detriments to our nation. They're the ones that are on Capitol Hill, and they're the ones that are controlling these rhinos, controlling the power of the purse. They make a lot of money, and they control a lot of the money that goes on in D.C. That's why I've called for a ban of all special interests and lobbyists on Capitol Hill. But it's going to be very interesting, because if all of Trump's appointments from here on out do not go through, it's going to be hell to pay. It really will be hell to pay.
You know who I often like to listen to, and because his words actually make a lot of sense to me, is Malcolm X. And a lot of people wonder why, why would you listen to a black Muslim militant, whatever? Well, for one thing, he's the one who said that the white liberal is the biggest enemy to the black people, and he's absolutely right. And Trump has proven that. I mean, he's brought it right out wide into the open, and it makes me wonder if Malcolm X was alive today, would he stand beside President Trump? And I think he might.
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of people have asked that. They've asked that about Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. was alive today. Would he stand with Trump? That's a very, very good question. And and they say if JFK was alive, JFK Jr. was alive today, he'd probably be considered a Republican. So
Yes.
all these questions have been asked. All these questions have been asked. But yeah, that's interesting. Interesting question.
Well, I think the scenario he gave best was the wolf and the fox, when he said the white liberal represents the fox, while conservatives represent the wolf. You see the wolf coming. The fox is very sneaky. Well, the foxes this day happen to be our Rhino Republicans.
Yeah. It's true. I mean, you know this, and I've talked this on my podcast. I've worked with a lot of candidates, and I was a campaign manager for 5 years. And I saw these people that were like, rah, 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 for my candidate. And then all of a sudden they turn on him. They either, he's not bought and paid for by these rhinos. He doesn't want to be in line with these rhinos because he goes with his constituents. Like, for example, like in Maryland, there's rhinos that vote for amnesty for illegal, Section 8 housing, halfway housing. They vote for the biggest tax hike in Annapolis history. They vote with Governor Westmore. And these are, quote, Republicans. And it's disgusting. It's so disgusting.
Well, they almost got red flag laws passed here in Idaho. And the one guy who helped almost push it through, they asked him, this is a place where quote unquote gun violence doesn't happen very often. How did you manage to get something like this, nearly get it through? And he said, easy. All I had to do is put an R behind my name. And that's the problem. That is a problem here, is too many people are not doing their research on the candidates.
That is correct. I agree. That's correct.
My neighbor the next door neighbor who moved in from California, he got away from there because he didn't want to stay in the communist hellhole that Gavin Newsom had created. But came along the 2018 election, and he's still new to the area. And what does he tell me? Well, I don't know anything about the candidates, but if they were Republican, they got my vote. And I'm like, dude, you don't know it, but you're part of the problem by doing that.
And that's Seth's motto, is principle over party. Just because the person has an R at the end of their name doesn't necessarily mean that they represent you. Like, for example, in Maryland, I'm going to Maryland because Seth is from Maryland. Larry Hogan, the biggest rhino of all. We talked about him on the podcast, and people were bitching at Seth, and they're like, you have to vote for Larry Hogan. He's a Republican. You have to. He's better than Alsobrooks. You have to. But Larry Hogan didn't represent Maryland's values, didn't represent Maryland Republican values. And as a result, the Republicans rejected him, and the state of Maryland rejected him. And I was like, well, we get this woman, Alsobrooks, but she has no power because the Republicans took back the Senate. Her voice is destroyed. And of course, the Rhino Republicans, they made up this narrative that, Larry Hogan had to win in order to take back the Senate. And I'm like, that is not true. We did not need Larry Hogan to take back the Senate, because I looked at the numbers. I knew that Jim Justice was going to win automatically in West Virginia. And I knew that Bernie Moreno was going to win, and the guy in Montana was going to win, because those are hardcore red Republican states that President Trump was going to win, and Trump would carry those men over, which he did. So we didn't need Maryland. We didn't need Larry Hogan. But they kept bitching at Seth. You got to vote for Larry Hogan. He's a Republican. Got to vote for Larry Hogan. And Seth said, no, I'm not doing it.
I hate it when people do that too. Back in 2008, I had my grandfather. You need to vote for John McCain. Then I got my mother. You need to vote for Barack Obama. I said, you both can shut the fuck up, because I am going to vote my way. I am going to vote the way I see fit.
Exactly. And that's one of the reasons why I voted for President Trump 3 times, because he represented me as a young woman, as a Jewish woman, as a young entrepreneur. I lost my opera career under Barack Obama and Biden. because opera houses were closing down over the country and the world because the economy was horrific under Barack Obama. He didn't even move the needle like he's promised he would.
Well, I always like to say that, you heard the old phrase, passing the torch when somebody leaves office.
Mhm.
They say, George W. Bush passed the torch to Barack Obama.
Mm.
No, he didn't. He passed the shovel to Barack Obama because George Bush got everything going on the wrong track, and our economy was falling apart.
That's why we got a Barack Obama, because of George W. Bush, because the last 2 years of his presidency were horrific. It didn't matter. Actually, it didn't matter what Democrat was running. A Democrat would have won, especially against John McCain.
And what did George Bush passes the shovel to Barack Obama. Obama trades in the shovel for an excavator and continues to dig us deeper.
Oh yeah. I mean, that man was a plant. I mean, he was put in here for a reason. I mean, he was put in here by the terrorist organizations. He was put in here by George Soros. I mean, there's a lot of secrecy to this man, just like the governor of Maryland, Wes Moore. There's a lot of secrecy to him too. He was put in by Barack Obama and George Soros and Oprah Winfrey. There's a lot of secrecy to these people. I asked, like, why are these people in power? Where did they come from? We as the voters and as Republicans especially, we need to pay attention, because if we don't pay attention, look, we got the freaking squad, we got the AOCs of the world, we got Ilhan Omar in here, we got Rashida Tlaib. Why are these women here? Why are they still in the halls of Congress? Why were they reelected? We have to get rid of them. We have to get rid of these. I call them weeds. Get the weeds out.
Why the hell? I mean, credit to AOC. At least she's an American citizen. However, that's as far as it goes with me, because she's dumber than a box of rocks. Didn't even know the branches of government, but Ilhan Omar, why?
She's her brother. She's disgusting.
They did more.
Islam with Keith Ellison and Louis Farrakhan. They're all together. They're all hooked in. It's disgusting.
I mean, and of course, I think the meme that probably made the most sense to me was a picture of Ilhan Omar with AOC, and says, "I like what and it's Minnesota all turned to shit, and it's I like how you redecorated, and it says, yeah, I just wanted to make it look more like home."
Oh, jeez.
Good Lord. Though we are down to the last 2 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
It's been great.
We talked about a lot of things. I wanted to bring up very quickly just the murder of the CEO of United Healthcare. And it's interesting because we're talking about the transgender thing, because I'm a licensed agent, and I actually have United Healthcare insurance myself. United Healthcare is one of the biggest insurance companies and carriers in the country and the world. And United Healthcare denies gender reaffirming surgery to minors. So a lot of people thought that correlation, had to do with his murder, that United Healthcare denied a lot of people. And then they had the thing with the Supreme Court. Like, there's a lot of coincidences involved in that. What say you about
that? I really don't know what to say on that, but somebody's really trying to cover something up, obviously.
Somebody said that he hired the guy to kill him. So I don't know.
Probably. You never know with these mugs. You never know.
I know, but if you don't think that the CEOs of these insurance companies are all getting private security detail around them, because once one goes down, the others will go down too.
They're their own mobs. Yeah. But anyway, with all that said, of course, like I said, keep Seth and his family in your prayers. Of course, my son has surgery coming up in Salt Lake City that's hopefully going to reduce his seizures. So keep him in your prayers as well. Yeah, a lot of stuff going on. I will be back Tuesday evening, as will Alexandra, if I'm not mistaken.
That is true. Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, Alexandra 360. But don't forget, every Sunday night at 7 p.m. is the Conservative Corner with Seth Eisenberg. You can follow him at Conservative Corner at COSERVATIVE Corner on X. And you can always follow us at The Patriots Prayer on X, at The Patriots Prayer on Facebook, at The Patriots Prayer Network on Rumble, and we're at The Patriots Prayer on YouTube.
Absolutely. Well, Alexandra, thank you very much for helping me out.
Of course.
Seth, I hope we did you justice. Philip,
I think he appreciates it.
Absolutely. But we are out of here. I will, and both of us. I'll be back Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, and of course, 2 hours later, you got Alexandra 360. So, with that said, if you can't be good, well, be good at it, and we're out of here.
Peace.